Hey, what's up, Crypto Army? I'm Travis, your crypto newbie, bringing you my experiences so you don't have to learn things the hard way. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. None of my content should be viewed as financial advice. If you like what my content offers, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on notifications so you get notified about content when I publish it. It really helps the channel grow and get the content to others that might like it. As you can see, I'm still on the road traveling for work. Now, today we're going to talk about SymBull. Now, one of the subscribers asked me to do a quick fundamental analysis of this token, and I'm going to oblige. It's an interesting token. It is a cross between SHIB, if you've been tracking the SHIB token, and EverGrow coin. So it's got aspects of both of those token systems, making it an interesting combination for review. Now, full disclosure, I don't have any holdings in this token. I have a completely unbiased approach to this. Now, I don't know that I'm going to buy this token. And the primary reason is the team is not doxed. Now you'll see on the screen there, the dev team has been KYC verified. A lot of the security audits are doing that. There are processes for a team to dox themselves with a third party and use that as a way to build up confidence in the project. I think that doxing is more than that. I think it should be on the website and it should be for all potential holders to see. I don't think Telegram works. I don't think Zoom works. I think it needs to be on the website, doxed there with their names and the pictures. That's my perception of what doxing should be and what I look for in a project that I'm going to invest in. Now, full disclosure, I've also invested in some that don't dox themselves. I might invest in this one as well. I always have trouble investing at the end of the month because I've already bought other tokens that I've discovered over the course of the month. And that's kind of the situation that I'm in right now. Even if I wanted to buy this token, there just isn't any more money to invest. But it is a very interesting token, and it does have a strong fundamental analysis that supports potentially investing in this. But you be the judge of that. Do your own research, as always, and this can be part of that research process. But just keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, so you really need to do your own research and identify what risk you're willing to take on new projects, because this is a relatively new project. Now, why do I think the doxing is so important? If you believe in your project, why wouldn't you dox yourself? What are the benefits of not doxing yourself? Well, if things go badly, you can run away from the project, right? That seems to be the number one draw of not doxing yourself. Plus, there are a lot of crazy people out there. So it kind of protects you from all the crazies, especially when things aren't going well for this project or any project in general. So when the price drops or things don't work out as planned, not doxing provides a little bit of separation from all the nuts out there that would do death threats and phone calls and emails, and we get a lot of nutty people these days, and that's unfortunate. But think of how many companies out there have CEOs and boards and COOs and CTOs, and think of all the people that stand by their business. What's the difference? I don't see a difference. If you want to create a project and you want people to invest their money into it, you kind of need to be willing to dox yourself. And if you stand by the project and believe in the fundamentals of your project, that really shouldn't be that difficult. Again, that's just my 2 cents. And I put a lot of weight in 2 things. Primarily whether the team is doxed and whether there's a security audit. And this project does have a security audit. So it's got at least one for 2. And then I look at other aspects of the project also as part of the fundamental analysis. So let's go ahead and jump into that now that we've kind of covered the team aspect of this and whether they've been doxed or not, which is a critical aspect of the fundamental analysis. Now, as you can see, they've got a phenomenal website. I really, really like the graphics on their website. It's not one of these out-of-the-box templates. They took the time to edit it. Now, I don't know that they didn't use a template for the basis, but they've made it their own, and they came up with a pretty solid brand built around the bull. And you're going to see a lot of parallels to the SHIB token as far as how this one is structured. I do like that they've got all the options for connecting with them here, to include the ability to email them. What you won't see is Discord. Again, I tend to think that Discord is a better community building application. It's better than Telegram. Telegram's good for providing AMAs, and it does provide a lot of information, but it's just a lot of junk a lot of times. And a lot of bots. They use a lot of bots on Telegram in general. I'm not saying that this project does, but they tend to. across the board. And Discord can have bots too, but it seems to be a little bit more controlled. And Discord generally works a little bit better for segregating what are the issues and what are the questions and what kind of community discussion that is out there. And sometimes it can have a section divided specifically for questions about the project, more serious discussions, and then you can kind of provide how-tos, and you can do a lot more information on Discord to help you build up your community. So I generally prefer seeing Discord over Telegram, but I do understand that a lot of people use Telegram these days, especially for asking questions, and the team can be engaged in Telegram. It's just harder to identify who's on the team versus an official Discord, which usually has all the key personnel on the right side of the screen for easy identification. Again, that's why I put more points with Discord over Telegram. Same thing with Twitter feeds. It's generally a little bit better than Telegram as well because it's more controlled and you don't typically have a lot of bots. I like that they have all the price information on here, and then you can also look at their DApp. The DApp is almost the exact same as EverGrow coin. We'll take a look at that here in a few seconds. I like that they've got the various options, whether it's a Telegram, the BSC scan, the chart, or how to buy on PancakeSwap. Now, as far as how to buy, this is just a button to get you to the PancakeSwap. It's not actually talking about how to buy. And again, for all those newbies out there, I tend to focus a lot on the newbies. If you come to this website as your first ever crypto, you don't know what PancakeSwap is. You don't even have a wallet. So how do you buy? How do you know how to buy? Now, granted, there's a lot of information out there on YouTube on how to do these things, but what stands most projects apart from others is you've made it really easy for investors if you put how to buy instructions right on your website. And in this case, they didn't do that. So anybody that's coming to this project as their first ever crypto, maybe a friend is sending them information for it, any number of different, maybe a Google search got them here, whatever the situation is, they're not necessarily going to know how to buy. Now, that's a very small segment potentially of holders that they're missing out on, but it's holders nonetheless. And that's why I put it as a fundamental analysis. The easier you make it for a holder to buy into your project, the better off the project is, the faster it's going to grow because it opens it up to a wider group of people. Not just the people that are already in crypto, but all the future investors of crypto as well. Because right now, a very small percentage of the population actually buy crypto. Now, here's where you're going to start to see some similarity to SHIB. You've got three different tokens. You've got SymBull, which is the one we're talking about now, Ride, and Charge. Charge being their governance token. And you can read a little bit about them. These two have not launched, as far as I could tell. I didn't see them on CoinMarketCap. I didn't see them anywhere else. And there's not a lot of information on this website about the plan for Ride and Charge. Just that they're coming and basically what they're going to be doing. Although, other than Ride being kind of the equivalent of Leash, which Leash in the Shiba ecosystem really doesn't have much of a purpose, other than it being numerically limited. And 100,000 tokens is seriously numerically limited. That's not a lot of tokens out there. 250 million, again, this is kind of your in-between, which is kind of the equivalent of Bone. Plus, this is kind of what their governance token is, which is, again, very similar to Bone in the SHIB ecosystem. And this is why I say this is very, very similar to SHIB. And they're also going to have something called BullSwap, which might sound familiar to Shiba Swap. And if we keep going down here, we'll go through the whole pre-sale and public sale information. They have a really good white paper. It's very similar to what they've got on the website. We'll bring it up just to kind of see what the graphics are and see how it's laid out, but it's almost the exact same information from the website. So if you like reading, it's a good way to get the information. If you like websites to discover all the information, you're going to get almost the exact same thing from the website as you would from the white paper, so you can save yourself a little bit of time, just focus on one or the other. And here we start to get into some of the tokenomics. Again, it's a BEP20 token, which I always love. I've been doing a lot more BEP20 tokens because it's ridiculous on the Ethereum network how much you're paying in gas fees. Now, I've got some tokens staked on the Ethereum network, and I took a look at yesterday how much it was going to cost me to unstake those, and it was almost $100, which was more than the amount of tokens I had in there. So I've got about $100 worth of tokens staked, or it's going to cost me $100 to remove them from the staking process. Yeah, I think I'll continue to wait for the Ethereum network to figure their stuff out. Eventually, I will remove everything from liquidity pairs and staking and all that kind of stuff once the gas fees get a little more managed. And that's why I'm focusing a lot more on BEP20 tokens over anything that's on the Ethereum network, because the fees are just ridiculous. And we'll keep going through, and you can see, again, really good graphics, really good layout for this particular project. Now, they had a burn of 50%. So 50% of their total tokens were already burned. And how many total tokens did they have? 20 billion. Yeah, 20 billion. Not 1 quadrillion, not 100 quadrillion, not 1 quintillion, not even a trillion. 20 billion tokens was all they launched with, which is very exciting. A lot of us have been getting used to seeing these 1 quadrillions. 20 billion is not a lot of tokens. It's a really interesting starting point for this project, which differentiates it from a lot of other projects that are out there. And as you can see here, the 8% of your sells and buys going back to every single person in the form of Binance-Pegged USD. Sounds familiar if you've been watching EverGrow coin, right? Now 3% of every buy and sell goes back into the buyback reserve, which has very similar characteristics to EverGrow coin in how they do things. Now there's two aspects to this particular buyback and burn. You've got the bull run, which is that really big green candle, and then you've got the bull rise system, which is those smaller ones that keep the chart moving in an upward direction but doesn't initially exhaust all of their buyback and burn reserve. And then you've got their anti-whale, which says that no sale amount higher than 0.1% of the total supply are possible at once. And again, very similar to the EverGrow coin, it was 0.2% when it launched. And then you've got 3% of every transaction being converted into liquidity. Again, very similar in its tokenomic to EverGrow coin. You've got that 8% Binance-Pegged USD, and then a total of 6% in other fees for a total of 14%, which again matches exactly with EverGrow coin. Then you've got the BullSwap, which is again your call over to the Shiba swap. Very similar in terminology. I'm curious to see how close the actual design is to the Shiba swap, because they've also got the NFT, which there's not a lot of information on what they're going to be doing for these different things. They're just talking about what their future is going to include. And then we can kind of see the breakdown of their actual transactions. Now, I've mentioned this pretty much with every token that has these high fees. SafeMoon, I think, is the only one that seems like a fairly safe, and even then, at 10%, it hasn't had as much growth as you would expect, but it's got the 14%, and I think we hit a point. I'm not sure that it's 14%. I don't know if it's 10%. I don't know where that ratio is for fees, but at some point we're going to hit a point where people aren't willing to trade it. Now, if you've been watching EverGrow coin, they ran into a problem when you get into the exchanges where most exchanges don't know how to do this type of tokenomics. Now, even in the case of SafeMoon, where it was rewards back in SafeMoon, Bitmart only gives you rewards once a month, or at least they did at the time of around June, July timeframe. That was the last time I used Bitmart for one of those reward tokens. Not every exchange can make rewards work. So more than likely, if this has to branch off into the exchanges, it's probably not going to have the rewards built in, even though you'll get that volume. So that's something you should consider, is you may not be able to grow this token because of those issues. And EverGrow coin has been shooting up. It's over 100,000 holders already, but now it's kind of slowing down. Now they've just started putting it on exchanges, so we start to see some of that volume. But that's not going to result in rewards necessarily, because if you're on the exchange, you're not participating in the rewards. But you're still growing the coin, creating that volume, and driving the price up. So those are some of the considerations to think about with these particular tokens. With the 14%, is that might be a barrier for some people to want to buy this, because you're going to lose 14% on the buy, you're going to lose 14% on the sell. If you were to do a buy and a sell at the exact same time, you're down 28%. Now, over time, obviously, if the price goes up, you're actually not going to lose 14% of your original, so it's more like you're losing 22%, maybe 26%, but you're betting on the price going up. What if the price goes down? You could actually be out even more than 28% when the price lowers. So there's an assumption there that the price is going up, and that'll offset some of that 14%, and you'll get some savings on that. But that's a big bet. So it's possible that you're going to get less than 28% if you were to buy and sell this at a negative or a loss, but you're trying to get above a certain percentage in order to break even. And that might not be possible depending on how this one does. Again, my goal is not to make you buy or not buy this particular token. I'm just talking about what are some of the risks you have to think about when you're looking at these tokens and whether to buy them or not. And those are some of the things I consider for these tokens. Is 14% is a lot. And you're really hoping that that price jumps up in order to offset that if you ever want to sell it. Now, my prerogative on a lot of things, if you believe in the fundamentals of a project, don't sell. If the fundamentals don't change, depending on what you're trying to get out of the project, don't sell. Now this one, with the 14% and the 8% back in Binance-Pegged USD, a lot of people are looking for that passive income. So once the volume gets to a certain point, you start to get in some pretty good passive income on that consistent volume. A lot of people will use the $1 billion. Now with this one, with the 20 billion token total supply, you don't necessarily need to have millions and billions of tokens in order to get some pretty good returns, especially if you're up at the $1 billion volume. But you don't necessarily need to be up that high on the volume in order to get those returns. So maybe it's hundreds of millions of dollars in volume. And that's good to consider when you're doing this, is what kind of volume do you really need to get in order to A, get your money back, and B, get to the passive income that you're looking for from tokens like this? And how likely is it to get to that kind of volume? Because not every token is going to get to $1 billion in volume. Let's just be realistic. They're not all going to get there. Now, I like the roadmap. I like that they've got the check marks to indicate that they're complete with certain things. What you're not going to see on this roadmap is the other tokens, which I kind of feel like if you're going to talk about the ecosystem, you might want to at least identify when are the other tokens coming out, or at least which phase, right? I do like the approach of phases because it doesn't hold you to a specific month or quarter, but I do tend to think you need to give some information about what the future entails, how long you're going to have to wait for certain things. So I would prefer to have at least some kind of a quarter layout on a roadmap. Maybe not necessarily this one. Maybe this is the big picture, and then you've got kind of by quarters on what you expect to see certain things. Just one of those things I would look at. Not necessarily a hit against the fundamentals on this project. It's just kind of one of those things I like to see is, well, how long is it going to take? Phase 1, is that the end of the year? Is it the end of next year? It's not entirely clear. And you can see BullSwap development begins in phase 2. Well, when does phase 2 even begin? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do like that they lay certain things out, but all they really talk about is what we've already talked about on this website, which is the BullSwap. They don't even mention the other tokens. And then it's about partnerships and the ability to buy directly. And those are all good things, but where's the utility? Because the swaps aren't really that much utility in the big picture of things. And I've said it before, having a whole bunch of tokens is not utility. An ecosystem of tokens, not necessarily utility. Now I said the same thing about SHIB, and you can see the price on SHIB has gone up significantly, but there's a lot of people that still don't understand why, and I'm kind of one of those people. Now they did add the NFT portion of it, and this one's got an NFT piece that they're working as well. NFTs is utility. NFTs are taking off like crazy right now, and I suspect they're probably here to stay. Betting that there's probably going to be some hardware on the other side of this for displaying NFTs that's going to come out as well. And if you're watching this and you like hardware development or building things that integrate with some software, NFTs is kind of the future, but if you buy an NFT for $1 million, you'd probably like to display it in some way, shape, or form. So how do you do that? And I kind of feel like a TV app is probably a great option because you can put these TVs up on the wall and they look like picture frames and you can put a whole bunch of digital stuff on there. Imagine being able to display your NFTs on one of those type of TVs. I could see there being a whole market for how to display NFTs in the future. That might be a good place for somebody to put some money and develop it out, because that's kind of where I see the future going with the NFTs, at least part of it anyway. But as we go through this, you can see the beta testing for the BullSwap isn't until phase 4, and now we're talking 2022 at least being mentioned on here. So when in 2022 is phase 4 the fourth quarter, so the end of next year? Is it going to take that long? I don't know. And that's the problem with not knowing kind of what year we're talking about, or which quarter at the very least. That would be why I recommend putting some of that information on this website. And then we're down at the bottom of the website, and there's nothing else new here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the audit quick. Now, I've seen a couple of Solidity Finance audits. I don't know anything about this. What I know is it's not one of the big audits like CertiK. I'm just being honest. There's no rhyme or reason to audits on which one's good, which one's bad, which one's got rug pulls associated, which one has failed miserably. I don't know. I know that generally CertiK is seen as a good audit, There's a couple others that have been seen as pretty good audits, and they're generally having audits into the 50, 60 page range. They don't all provide a score, and this one doesn't provide a score. It really doesn't provide a lot of information, but at least they've got an audit, right? It's a starting point. And on the roadmap, it does list that they've got another third-party audit, or at least a third-party audit that doesn't have a check mark. I'm not sure if that's this one or if it's a different one, because this one's already done, and unless they own Solidity Finance or they have a partnership with it, it's a third party, so maybe they haven't updated their roadmap, or maybe it's a new one that they're planning on doing. A lot of places are coming out with more than one audit just for building up consumer confidence and buying into that project. That's always a good best practice. Not necessarily required, at least they have an audit done. Now this is their rewards checking system, and you can see there's a lot of similarities to EverGrow Coin on the development of this, and we're starting to see this pop up quite a bit more now, so everybody's kind of going with this sort of a design, but I like it. Nothing necessarily too unique, but it's good that they've got this so you can track your reward. Now let's go ahead and look at the price right now. So as you can see, it's pretty stable over the last 24 hours. Let's go look at the 30 days, which is about how long this project has been in existence. And you can see you had that initial jump like most projects do, and it's starting to stabilize and consolidate its position, which is pretty normal. Right now we're kind of in a bear market, and most tokens are kind of on the decline, so this isn't unexpected. And if we look at the number of addresses that currently hold this, under 3,000, which tells us a couple of different things. One, very early in this project, so if this was to grow by 20x, where's the price at? Imagine it's got 10,000 or 20,000 holders, where's the price going to be at? And here's where we can also see that their burn address is at 55%. And we can see that there's a lot of holders that don't necessarily have a huge percentage. We're not seeing, 5% or 6% or, a lot of 1% holders, and they don't have a lot of tokens. You're only talking about 67, 68 million tokens, 100 million up here. Again, that's partly because they've only got 20 billion in total supply for this particular token. So how did everything go for the SymBull fundamental analysis? Well, a C. And a C is not necessarily terrible because there's not a lot of A's out there. It's really hard to get an A. I've only seen a couple of A's for fundamental analysis, and none of them were for a token that just launched. They're too new. There's not enough there for it to be a strong fundamental analysis. And that's no different for this particular token. A C is pretty good for under a month old trying to do a fundamental analysis. Their website looks good. I didn't see any spelling or grammatical issues, no website errors. Team's not listed. Contact method, yes, which a lot of projects don't have. They do have a security audit listed, prices listed, market cap, how to buy, and again, this is the, no kidding, how do you buy this particular token, not just hitting a buy button? And no, they don't have that. I gave the audit score 100 because they didn't have any issues mentioned in there. Everything passed, so right now, I guess technically is 100. I didn't see any issues on the roadmap or the white paper. Again, a couple recommendations for what I would like to see on the roadmap. Development team's not known, and that's a huge issue from a fundamental analysis. There's a lot of risk that comes from not having that team be doxed. Is it a professional team? It appears to be. I did look at their Telegram. I did look at their Twitter. I didn't see any real issues there. They have a token. They don't have a blockchain. They don't currently have an NFT stuff, no wallet, no exchange, and they pretty much are no across the board. All this is right now really is just a token. It doesn't have a lot of other utility. Holder strength, very, very small right now. Now again, I base this off of Bitcoin, so that's why most of these projects have such a small number, almost zero, or zero, as far as the number of points they get from the number of holders they've got. Even SafeMoon with nearly 3 million was only like 7% of Bitcoin. And that's kind of how that portion works if you haven't watched one of these before. Galaxy score, I give everybody 100 right now because I'm trying to replace the Lunar Crush scores. They've made that harder to use, so I'm not willing to do the work necessary to have the number of points in order to see the Galaxy score. So everybody right now gets 100 points. In reality, I would suspect that this is probably a 50 for this project, so they would lose a lot of points there. And that would probably take them into D range, which is more realistic in comparison to other videos I've done. They don't have a lot of dedicated YouTube channels right now. There is YouTube video content out there. but it's very minimal. And that also helps drive why this is such a small project right now, is they just don't have a lot of presence out there on the social media network. They do have the Twitter, but again, they don't have a lot of posts out there. They do have the Telegram, but not a lot of followers right now. But they have the Twitter. They don't have the Discord, and I generally think Discords help projects grow. And I put the target audience of around 5 just because they don't have any real utility right now. And they really don't have much. They talk a little bit about the NFT stuff, which gives them a little more utility, but they don't really elaborate on it. And I kind of think that the white paper could be expanded to give more information about exactly what they're trying to do and how they're trying to accomplish it. And the NFT portion and the BullSwap are 2 things I think they could elaborate on. But out of that, there really isn't much utility, and it doesn't give it a strong use case, which is why the target audience is so small. Maybe when we learn more about the NFT portion, the target audience will get a little bit bigger. And I'll use EverGrow coin as a great example. They've got a subscription service they're talking about, and then they got the NFT marketplace. So they've got potentially all of YouTube as a target audience, because that's kind of what subscription services are, or OnlyFans, and they've mentioned that several times. That's why this number is so low, is they really haven't provided a lot of clarification on what it is they're trying to do and who they're trying to target. And that gives them a 324 out of 568, or a C based off how I do the point system here. Now, just for kind of example, if their development team was doxxed, this would probably be a B. Or if we had the Galaxy score, it would probably be right now about a D, or with the doxxed team around a C, which is a strong project. It doesn't necessarily seem like that, but it tells you about the risk. New projects have a lot of risk, especially if they don't have strong utility, they don't have a really strong target audience. There's a lot of risk here, and that's all this is telling you. It's not telling you whether this project is going to be successful. It's not telling you whether to invest or not. It's just saying, this is the level of risk. Is it a good project to invest in? I don't see any real issues here other than the team's not doxxed. That's a lot of risk that you're assuming when you invest in a team that hasn't been doxxed yet. And just being realistic here, they could run away with the money tomorrow and you'd have nothing to show for it and no way to track down the team. Nobody to report them to. Maybe the FBI investigates those kinds of things. I'm not even sure. I try to avoid anything that's going to be potentially a rug pull or a scam token. Again, not saying that this one is that, but generally those are the projects that you have to worry about, as ones that aren't doxxed. That's where you typically see scam tokens exist. And that's why I give that a lot of points in my fundamental analysis, because that's a pretty high risk issue. Now, hopefully you found this content helpful. Again, I'm not telling you not to invest in this. I'm not telling you to invest in this. I might even invest in this myself, but what the score is telling me, especially with the lack of a doxxed team, is maybe I won't invest a lot. Maybe I'll invest $100 or $200 or a lower threshold than a team that's doxxed. Now, I'll generally throw quite a bit more at a doxxed team than I will at one that's not doxxed. Same thing with SHIB. When I invested in SHIB, I invested far less into that than I did into other doxxed projects at the time. Now I'm kind of kicking myself because SHIB took off, but that's kind of how it works. I could have gone the complete other direction, and I've had projects like that where I put in $100 into the project and then it was a rug pull, or it was a scam of some sort. That's the reason why I put a lot of emphasis on these aspects for my fundamental analysis. That's it for this fundamental analysis. Hopefully you found it helpful. Until next time, stay strong with those diamond hands.